The food service, hospitality, and retail industries are evolving in ways you've never heard of until now. Hosted by global industry technovator Rob Grimes and powered by the IFBTA, Tech Bites is your go-to podcast, putting technology innovation and trends on the menu.
Well, here we are for another edition of Tech Bites and a special conversation guest who I've had many conversations with, by the way, on screen, off screen, on a stage, with Chris Keating, who would be listed on his LinkedIn profile as what, Restaurant Things, at Restaurant Things?
Yeah, my official job title, I think, on LinkedIn is I do restaurant things at Informa. So it's a nice, broad, vague thing. But, I run our food service events team. We'll do 13 events this year.
It's a lot of events.
Yeah, the
But
biggest one.
We're here to talk about one that's coming up.
Yeah, it's the flagship of the group is Restaurant Leadership Conference in Scottsdale for our, 29th annual or something. I don't know what annual is.
Well,
There's a couple of years we're not sure.
A couple of years you're not sure. Okay, well, look, I could be short, maybe not of those couple of years, but I've been going to RLC, for many, many years. And it's a great conference. It really brings together the leaders, as it says, in the industry across the board. But maybe you could just sort of give us the details of this year's event.
Yeah, the big picture is it's a roughly 4-day event. We start Sunday evening and we run through Wednesday at around 11. It's an executive chain event. There'll be close to 2,000 people there. The hotels are largely sold out, as anybody who's tried to get a hotel room recently has learned. We've got a bunch of rollover hotels. And it's a great event. It's chains of all sizes. We certainly have a lot.
There are a lot of Sunday evenings coming up. So what Sunday evening are we talking about? April 13th through 16th.
Yeah, so Sunday, April 13th is when we kick off with our welcome reception, and that's what we'll give out. We're actually going to honor Dave's Hot Chicken as our pace setter winner. That's a very lovely little award ceremony we do at our opening reception to a chain that has sort of broken through to the next level, is maybe was in our future 50, which is a list we do with Technomic and Restaurant Business. We look at 50 chains that are 5 to 10 units and has high growth rates, and now they've broken through to the next level. And of course, not long after we announced Dave's Hot Chicken as our pace setter, they got very much in the news with Roar Capital looking to make a big deal with them.
Yes, they did. So and actually, I should mention that you and I actually were with Dave's Hot Chicken in Asia back at FS Tech Asia. And also, they're really on the technology forefront as well, even though Restaurant Leadership Conference is not all about tech. It just so happens that they cross both of our paths, during the year.
Yeah, Jim Biddick's president of Dave's was with us in Singapore, and along with their CIO and head of franchising. And they talked a lot about their technology innovation. And so nothing makes us happier than sort of these chains that take it to the next level, right? That take it from that. I think they started with a food truck in a parking lot, right? And now they're talking to Roar Capital about $1 billion acquisition. So it's these great success stories that we love to hear.
Well, it is. And, maybe, if we talk about the target audience or those who attend Restaurant Leadership, because as you pointed out in your portfolio, what was it, 12 or 13 leadership events? Well, each one has a different audience because you really appeal through your family of events to many different audiences in it. So while Restaurant Leadership, what would you say is the main focus or those who should attend?
Yeah, this is VP and above at chains. We certainly have some smaller chains, but you're going to see a lot of mid-size and pretty deep penetration into the top 25. So you're going to see some of the megas there as well. You'll see a lot of CEOs. And an example is we give out our Restaurant Leader of the Year award every year. Very excited this year. Kevin Hochman of Brinker. Everyone in the industry has seen what Chili's has been doing over the last year. And not long after we announced him, they posted that insane 31% same-store sale pitch. Kevin's become a friend of ours recently. He was at RLC a couple of years ago. And we always invite the previous year's winner to attend. RLC is usually right around the time of the Masters. Sometimes that Sunday is the Sunday of the Masters. And so we like to do our own little Butler Cabin green jacket ceremony. And Peter Cancro, who from Jersey Mike's, who was last year, just let us know this week he will be able to join us. So, and that was another
Speak
fun one,
about
right?
transactions, by the way.
Exactly. I mean, last year
There was that.
famously,
Maybe you guys are a one of those people that influence transactions, because you got Dave's Hot Chicken coming up and you got Jersey Mike's. Gee, I sort of see a trend here.
we had John Chidsey from Subway,
Absolutely.
6 months before the big Subway deal, and last year, famously, Jonathan Mays, interviewed Peter and asked him, is Jersey Mike's for sale? And I forget what he said, but something like every business is always for sale, and of course,
So
2
what you would
billion.
tell people then is, if they want to grow their business in a really big way, that's what comes out. That's the outcome of investing in attending RLC.
No doubt. I mean, only maybe our older listeners will get the reference, but Jonathan Mays, he's like the E.F. Hutton. He moves markets when he talks to people on stage, and so yes, that's gonna be really cool. I spent a lot of time with Peter last year at the event, and just an unbelievably delightful person. And you talk to all of their franchisees, and Kevin looks like he's someone built in that mode. So it's gonna be really cool to have the two of them as part of that ceremony. It's gonna be one of the highlights this year for sure.
Well, listen, before we go back to the other highlights of this year, just overall, I mean, there are different components of the Restaurant Leadership Conference. So obviously networking is one, and you've mentioned the open reception and things, but also education is another, the marketplace is another. Can you just sort of describe the key components?
Yeah, I think the key thing is, this is not a trade show. It's an executive conference. And so everyone who's there, whether you're from a sponsor or an operator, you're a full participant in everything. And everything includes, we have our general session. That's where we'll have Mark Wahlberg and our CEOs, and that'll be the big stuff, right? We have a lot of breakouts, and you'll hear about marketing, technology, operations, menu, all that stuff. We have our marketplace, which is our show floor. In fact, Wahlburgers will have a big activation there on Monday nights. That'll be a lot of fun. And then you've got a lot of fun stuff. I mean, Monday is our activities. So golf is always our biggest activity. There's 2 18-hole golf courses. There'll be, 200-something golfers. But pickleball is coming on hard, as last year, there's 17 pickleball courts at the JW Marriott Desert Ridge. I think we took half, because we used to have a tennis tournament. It's been slowly getting pushed out by pickleball, like you're seeing in clubs and retirement communities everywhere. We took all 17 courts this year. Troy Hooper, who was also with us in Singapore last year,
right,
and our friends at Pepper Lunch, they're hosting a pickleball party. And years ago, I worked, literally my very first job, I worked with a guy, sort of worked with him. He had sold some magazines to our company, and he was a great presence hanging around. He is now the co-author of Pickleball for Dummies. So we invited him. So you can come to Pickleball and either get a class from the co-author of Pickleball for Dummies. You can participate in our tournament, or just have a party. And if anyone who knows Troy Hooper knows, it's going to be a party. There's going to be some music and maybe some morning beverages, and then there's also hiking and Jeep rides and cooking. We have a whole array of stuff on Monday.
It's funny that you're bringing up pickleball, because I call it March Madness, right? Yeah. As of right now, especially for the IFBTA, I've got 8 different events during the month of March that start March 1st. And actually, if I add them all together, it's 10 events if I go to mid-April, which would be where RLC is. Well, one of those events is a franchising conference, which is coming up the week after next. And I have been hit up with no less than 5 or 6 emails, because they know I'm attending this thing, to come and discuss pickleball franchising as a new thing. So you guys, once again, and by the way, before this, never got hit up on that. So to have that take place at RLC, that's like putting you guys once again at the forefront of what's hot, in here. So we need to figure out, how somebody, serves food, and with pickleball, and what the right food thing will be, and who knows what's going to come out of that, right?
I went to I was at the NRAEF has their big fundraiser, the TJB event last week, and I was at the dinner table on Friday night with a guy who's doing pickleball franchises. So
could be the same guy.
It's they just got to make that ball a little less loud, I think, and then
right. And let me just point out the word Top Golf. Okay, so that is the marriage of golf and food service for sure. And I know that you guys have featured Top Golf before at RLC and that you've done different events. So we'll have to see where pickleball goes in there. So, okay, so we talked about that it's an executive thing. You have some activities going on. What do we find out as far as educational content? And also, even though it's not a trade show, there are sponsors and people that present there. So what do we see on that?
Yeah, so I think there's two ways to think about it. And on the main stage, it's a mix of some of our celebrity speakers like Mark Wahlberg with Gabby Thomas, who track star who won 3 gold medals at the Paris Olympics last year, and by the way has a Harvard degree in neurology. But also that's where we'll have our restaurant leader of the year. We have our C-suite in the hot seat, where we've got executives from IHOP and Cracker Barrel and Jack in the Box. But then when you get the breakouts, you get a little more specific. We'll have very specific sessions on marketing, on operations, on supply chain. We run about 5 to 10 breakouts concurrently. So that's where you really got to dig into the website and pick the stuff that's right for you. And there's a lot of off-property stuff too. Like I always say, there's always a ton of things that happen off-property as people host lots of different parties. And
I think people take advantage of them getting together.
Yeah.
And you're bringing the industry together, but there are, special groups and other groups that can get together as well, as part of this. And so there are.
I try to make 7-minute appearances at each party. So everyone thinks I went to all the parties, but really I'm in bed by 9:30 so I can be fresh the next morning.
All right. Well, we'll have to.
I just gave my secret out loud. Darn it. Everyone thinks like.
Well, that's like you'll be in bed by 9:30. You'll find me at Starbucks at whatever they open. There's a Starbucks around the corner from there that opens at 4 a.m. I guess they do East Coast stuff. So that's where you find me. And then you find me at the Starbucks actually in the hotel as well.
With all 9 of your monitors set up.
There you go. Well, listen, at the facility itself. So it's at the JW Marriott at the Phoenix Desert Ridge Resort and Spa. And it is April 13th through 16th. And starting out with that opening reception all the way through the closing sessions, there's a lot of things for people to do. We know that. And you did mention that you've got such traction this year on it that you've had to do overflow hotels on it. But a person could still register.
You can still register. Yeah, I mean, you might get a hotel room. It's hard to get a hotel room from Sunday to Wednesday. It's the peak nights where so depending on your schedule, you might get a hotel room. But there are plenty of nice hotels. There's
plenty of things area. Right around there.
Yeah.
There's actually plenty of eating around there as well too. I mean, I love going out to Kirkland. Is it Kirkland? And the area right around there.
Yeah.
There's certainly a lot of different things, but also you're doing the receptions. You're bringing people together. There's a lot of activities that you're doing as well, and just even on site, it's an ideal resort. For the number of things that go on during the event on site.
Yeah, and they built a water park in the last couple of years. So if you bring your family, it's the perfect place for us because at RLC, the way I've been talking about it recently is RLC's become like a large town, but we try to create neighborhoods. And those neighborhoods, we've talked about the nests that Mark Hatch has developed for us, where we have these now 8, we're building our 9th and 10th, these groups of 30 people each roughly who have the same job. So the CMO nest, CFO nest.
Like birds of a feather of sorts.
Yeah, birds of a feather, and the nest is sort of a safe place where they get together and share with each other, the challenges or opportunities they see in their jobs. And there's a lot of things that happen at RLC that aren't even on the agenda necessarily. They're sort of private meetings where we try to set up because we want people to find their peers, to find their neighborhoods. I mean, going back to when I was in the magazine business, whether it's magazines or events, we see our job is to try to connect people together. And that might be connecting maybe 2 CMOs who on different coasts running similar 50s, marketing for similar 50-unit type chains and making that kind of connection. It might be connecting an operator with a technology solution or a food solution. And
connecting with the IFBTA.
Yeah, exactly. Connecting. Exactly. Well, associations are a big part of it. The National Restaurant Association, Women's Food Service Forum. Like we want the whole
You want
ecosystem,
the
and
whole
I have
community
PTA. You guys
together.
have your connections. We want to create an opportunity for them all to sort of connect. And I've always quoted Rich Melman, who I think is America's greatest restaurateur. That when they ask him about the restaurant business and whatever the restaurant business, whatever challenges they're going through at a particular time, he always says it doesn't matter. All that matters is that people come to my restaurant, they like it, and they come back. And that's sort of how we see our business. For Restaurant Leadership Conference, people come to it, they like it, and they come back. I think what's going to make them like it, yes, it's going to be the nice resort and getting your picture taken with Mark Wahlberg and hearing the stuff in the sessions. But I think more than anything else, it's connecting with someone that you build a relationship with that can help you in your career, that can help you with a solution. And that to me is like what we strive to do
Right.
and we'll never achieve,
Well,
as
when
Kevin
I
Costner says
think
in
of
Tin Cup, perfection is unattainable, but we'll pursue it nonetheless.
But when you think about it, at the very start of our conversation, you described RLC as the flagship event. Now, you have so many different sessions and different focus areas that really a person could bring their team there because you've got the marketing, the
Yeah.
high level team, but
Yeah.
the CEO and the COO and the vice presidents, marketing and IT and all those things. But yet, even within those 12 or 13 events that you're running, as you pointed out, this is the multi-unit group. But I've been to Create with you, which is certainly focused on emerging
Yeah.
brands that are out there. So you have that focus. I know at the National Restaurant Show, I believe you have Menu Masters, which is focusing on the the culinary side of this. And so if you have it all start with the flagship, but you actually, and then you have FS Tech, of course. So you have the focus things that also all year round continue to be able to provide value and leadership in individual segments.
Yeah, in fact, we did our first event of the year this week. This week we were at your alma mater. We were at Penn State for our chef's immersion. We've been doing chefs of the Big Ten for the last few years, and we've been at Michigan State and Rutgers. And literally this week we were at Penn State. So we do these non-commercial chef events. And then, September, October, November is kind of our big run of large events after RLC, FS Tech, our big technology event, Create, our emerging restaurateurs event. And then in November, we'll be in Barcelona for the Global Restaurant Leadership Conference.
Can you just tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, that's an event that, we did in Dubai 4 times. We were in Singapore. We brought it stateside in 2023. We took a year off last year because we got acquired by Informa. We're part of a global company. Global events were difficult for us at Winsight, a smaller company. We're now part of a much more, the biggest event company in the world. And so we rethought our kind of global strategy. And we were supposed to be in Barcelona back in 2020. I'm not sure what happened. We had to cancel it for some reason. But yeah, we'll be back there this year. We've made it really an executive event. We're capping our attendees at 150. It's really for C-suite executives, 50 units or more, doing business in 2 or more countries. So it's really got international development as its primary theme, with sort of menu supply chain and technology AI as sub themes.
Yeah, so there's really something in it for everyone. And as you've already pointed out, and anybody that would go to your website, even for RLC, will see the other events within the portfolio. But we don't want to forget, and you've already, spoken about Jonathan, and there's the counter, and Peter, so Nation's Restaurant News, and then Restaurant Business. And you really have your pulse on it from all the different things, plus Technomic, in there. Providing data, and then you bring the people together within the different events that you do. So again, it's April 13 to 16 in Scottsdale at the Marriott Desert Ridge Resort, starting on the Sunday, ending on the Wednesday. You do this all the time, and you go to all these things. Is there something? I know there's got to be, first of all, something that surprises you every year when you go that you just didn't expect.
Yeah.
But there's also probably things that as you go into it, you're thinking to yourself, because you're working on this all year long, I'm really looking forward to hearing about this or that's new? Is there one of those types of things for you personally that you are really thinking about and looking forward to?
The thing I am most looking forward to this year is we made a real emphasis on bringing in food and equipment into the event this year. Post-pandemic, technology has obviously been what's driving our industry. You're going to see a ton of technology companies. We're going to talk about it a lot. But we really made a concerted effort to build things for menu supply chain decision makers, for food companies. We're doing a lunch and learn on Monday on how to help menu drive your bottom line. We're doing a culinary lunch on Tuesday where we're going to invite menu decision makers, and we have some food companies doing some brief presentations. So that part is really exciting for me. And then equipment companies, we started something called the Equipment Lab on our marketplace floor, and you're going to see some equipment companies there. So you're going to see a little more, I think, diversity of supplier. Sponsor sales have been going really well, but you're going to see a bit of diversification in the supplier base, more food companies, more equipment companies than you've ever seen before. That's probably the thing I'm most excited about.
Well, that's really filling in the gap of some of the things. It really brings them all together because at a more educational networking type of conference and a C-level conference than it would be a trade show. And normally you'd have to go to trade shows, to see some of those things. So I think bringing them together, that makes a lot of sense. So I didn't know that, by the way. And I think that's something I'd look forward to as well.
And all these informer events we're talking about, of course, there's the restaurant show. My group doesn't run that, but then we'll all be in May, 5 weeks later for the restaurant show, which is going to be amazing.
But you do have Menu Masters there.
Yes, we'll do Menu Masters on Saturday night. That's our culinary award platform. We've been doing it for 30 years with our partners, Ventura Foods. That's always an incredible party, and that's really open just for menu decision makers. And so if you're an operator who might want to come to a great party on Saturday night, let us know. We're doing a CIO Nest event on Friday afternoon, very small event, but really I've mentioned these nests. That's for a small group to kind of gather. So yeah, we do some really small things and some pretty big things, and sometimes we really love the small things, but nothing gets us more excited than RLC. RLC's
but I think that's important, by the way, that it's not just about the big events, and that you're able to take the thought leadership. I sort of think of your group as the thought leadership group. You really are, because of course, publishing might they're part of what you do, and they might look at it that way, and also, but you're really providing the thought leadership in person, face to face, no matter what areas those are, to exactly the right group of people, because it's not a trade show. It really is about a thought leadership. And
we get to feed off each other. Like you said earlier, we lean a lot on the editors from Restaurant Business and Nation's Restaurant News, Sam and Jonathan, or even Joe Guskowski and we lean our Technomic friends. Technomic will open not open, but one of the first presentations will be their State of the Industry. So it all kind of works together, and they're delighted to get their opportunity to get on stage. We learn so much from them. So it's all designed to work together, and sometimes it even does.
I think that's what makes it good to have them within the family, and then you're able to bring it to your specific audiences, and each one has their own audiences and things. So, well, look, we're looking forward to doing this, and we've done this for a lot of years. You've done it for a lot of years, and I've been there a lot of years. So, but you always look forward to it because it also changes over time. And
gotta change, gotta evolve,
and the people, and the new and up and comers in the industry as well. Are there as well. And I always enjoy meeting people. You always meet people you never met, right?
Always, I meet people every time, and to me, it is really. I always say for many attendees, their best moment at RLC, isn't the picture with the famous person or the party. It's that one person they met because they sat down with a stranger at a breakfast.
Absolutely.
Or they met someone at Starbucks. And that is, it's really ultimately what I think our business is connecting people. That's what we do for a living. And I meet people every year, and it is the coolest thing for me.
Well, great. Well, Chris, thank you for joining us. And people can still sign up for this great event, a premier flagship event, one of 12 within the group that Chris is doing. And I don't want you to forget about the other ones that will come up after that, because we've heard us talk about the NRA show and Menu Masters. We've got GRLC in November. We've got FS Tech in September.
You've been to FS Tech once or twice,
Once or twice. But there's a whole series of different opportunities. And this is April 13th to 16th at Desert Ridge, the Marriott, JW Marriott in Phoenix, Desert Ridge. And they can find out about it by just searching for it or going to the Informa website, restaurantleadership.com. So, Chris, thank you very much for joining us today. And, I'm going to look forward to seeing you probably several times over the next few months.
For sure.
But we'll start out in Phoenix. This podcast is brought to you by the International Food and Beverage Technology Association. The IFBTA is the industry's voice of food service, hospitality, and retail technology, providing thought leadership as your single, impartial, and go-to resource. The IFBTA offers in-person and online communities to connect with your peers, the exchange, an all-encompassing global technology resource, and an industry-wide professional education and certification program. The bottom line is the IFBTA is your place to gather, learn, and share in conversations like the one we're having today. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Tech Bites, powered by the IFBTA. I'm Rob Grimes, your host, and I look forward to taking our next bite of technology together.